Welcome to Devotionary, where we make the Bible accessible and applicable. In the Bible, names hold a special significance. And in Joshua chapter 18, verses 11 through 28, we'll see that the name given by Jacob to his youngest son Benjamin had a particularly prophetic meaning. This story is just one more vignette that reveals the sovereign hand of God working behind the scenes in ways that are invisible to most of those involved. The birth of Benjamin was especially meaningful to Jacob because he would be the last child born to him by Rachel. She would die in childbirth, and Benjamin became the son to replace Joseph, whom Jacob thought to be dead, but who had actually been sold into slavery by his own brothers. All of these events, as dark as they may appear to be, were in the hands of God. He was orchestrating the storyline in such a way that Jacob's naming of his youngest son would take on a meaning and significance that Jacob himself was completely oblivious to. God was taking all that had happened to Jacob and transforming it into a beautiful story of redemption and blessing. Jacob had lost a son and a wife. He had been forced to take his family to Egypt to escape a famine, but God would restore them to the land of Canaan, greater in number, and with a special inheritance reserved for the son of his right hand. Of the 12 sons and 1 daughter born to Jacob, Benjamin was the last. His mother, Rachel, died as a result of giving birth to him, but the book of Genesis tells us that with her last breath, she provided her son with a name. Then they journeyed from Bethel. When they were still some distance from Ephraim, Rachel went into labor, and she had hard labor. And when her labor was at its hardest, the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, for you have another son." And as her soul was departing, for she was dying, she called his name Ben-Ani. But his father called him Benjamin. So Rachel died, and she was buried on the way to Ephraim, that is, Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a pillar over her tomb. It is the pillar of Rachel's tomb, which is there to this day. Israel journeyed on and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Eder. Genesis 35, verses 16 through 21. Ben-Ani means son of my sorrow, but Jacob would immediately change the name of his new son to Benjamin, which means son of the right hand. It seems that Jacob wanted to view the birth from a more positive perspective, in spite of the loss of his wife. The term right hand is a reference to good fortune or prosperity. Benjamin became very dear to Jacob, especially when Joseph, the first son born to him by Rachel, was sold by his brothers into slavery. Thinking his son dead, Jacob turned all his attention and affection on his youngest son Benjamin. And when famine struck the land of Canaan, his brothers were forced to go to Egypt in search of food. There they were reunited with their long-lost brother Joseph, whom they had sold into slavery and thought to be dead. Hiding his identity from them, Joseph, the second most powerful man in Egypt, demanded that his brothers return home and bring their brother Benjamin back with them. And after convincing their reluctant father to allow Benjamin to make the trip to Egypt, the brothers returned to face Joseph. Upon seeing his younger brother, Joseph was overcome with emotion. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, "Is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke to me? God be gracious to you, my son." Then Joseph hurried out, for his compassion grew warm for his brother, and he sought a place to weep. And he entered his chamber and wept there. Genesis 43, verses 29 through 30. When Joseph returned, he invited his brothers to eat with him. But the text tells us that he showed special favor to his younger brother Benjamin. Portions were taken to them from Joseph's table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs, and they drank and were merry with him. Genesis 43, verse 34. Not long after this, Joseph revealed his true identity to his brothers, encouraging them to take heart and letting them know that their evil treatment of him had all been part of God's plan to provide for and protect his people. Joseph sent his brothers back to Canaan with orders to bring back their father Jacob, along with all their families, so that they might live in the land of Egypt. The sons of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons according to the command of Pharaoh, and gave them provisions for the journey. To each and all of them he gave a change of clothes, but to Benjamin he gave 300 shekels of silver and 5 changes of clothes. Genesis 45, verses 21 through 22. The decision on Jacob's part to rename Benjamin was bearing fruit. There's no way he could have foreseen these events, but God was honoring Jacob's faith. In spite of the loss of his wife, Jacob believed that good would come from the birth of his son, not just pain and sorrow. And Benjamin was made prosperous by a very unlikely and unexpected source, his long-lost and long-thought-dead older brother. It's interesting to note that the tribe of Benjamin was the first tribe among the remaining 7 that was awarded its allotment in the Promised Land. Once the tribes of Judah, Ephraim, and Manasseh, the 2 sons of Joseph, had been taken care of, the lot fell to Benjamin, and their portion fell between the people of Judah and the people of Joseph. Joshua 18, verse 11. There would remain a close affinity between the descendants of Benjamin and those of his older brother Joseph. The smaller tribe of Benjamin would be surrounded by the lands occupied by the much larger tribes of Judah and Ephraim. It would be nestled in a kind of protective cocoon, with Judah to its south and the tribes of Manasseh and Ephraim to its north. The descendants of the youngest son of Jacob would find themselves the proud owners of 26 cities and their villages. Jacob's decision to name his last son Benjamin, son of my right hand, had truly been prophetic.